welcome to my kitchen. Today is a beautiful day and I am making chicken soup and my famous pineapple cold remedy and pie crust. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a good gluten-free pie crust, and it's only going to take a few minutes to whip together. Are we ready to get started? Okay. First, I'm taking my ingredients out of the freezer. Gluten-free pie crust can be extremely tender and it can be extremely flaky, but you need everything to be really, really cold first. I forgot no butter. Won't be tender or flaky without butter. So the reason we have our ingredients super cold is because the gluten-free starches will absorb any liquid we put in there. And if we do what you do with most pie crust, which is chilling it, it will get crumbly and will be really hard to roll out. We don't want that, so we chill everything ice cold first. Today we're going to be making a pie crust called pâté sucré. It's a sweet pie crust. You would use it for things like apple pie, custard pie, silk pies. You would not use this for quiche. Okay, so let's get started. Instead of using our KitchenAid today, we are going to use a food processor. Now, if you don't have a food processor, you can do this with a pastry cutter by hand, or, let's be honest, you could use a KitchenAid, but the way I do it calls for the food processor. I love it, and I find that it comes together really, really easily. So the first thing we're going to use is about 2.5 cups of Better Batter gluten-free flour. Now, you can use any good cup-for-cup flour that you want. My favorites, if you're not going to use Better Batter, my favorites are gluten-free GF Joules. And you could, in a pinch, use one of the others that are easily available at your local Costco or Walmart. But remember, the better the flour, the better the results. And you really do want this to be good enough to serve to anybody. So we're going to use about 2.5 cups of Better Batter flour, which is about 320 grams or about 10 1/4 ounces. I'm going to start doing some weights here because you're going to find that if you bake by weight, you get perfect results every time. And if you bake by volume, the weights can vary and it's really not as good. So we're also going to put into that about 1/4 cup of sugar, which is about 50 grams or about 1 3/4 ounces. Okay? Now, we are going to put this on and we're going to pulse it or turn it on until it's evenly combined so the sugar is mixed in with the flour. All right. Now what we're going to do is we are going to add about half of our butter to the food processor, and we're going to pulse it until it's the texture of cornmeal. Now I have here, you could use regular butter. I have goat butter here. You could use Earth Balance or any other vegan margarine that you like. All right, so we are going to do about 1 cup of butter or margarine. I'm going to move this so I don't have to keep looking down. I'll just look down this way, okay? About 1 cup of butter or margarine, which is about 227 grams or 8 ounces. You want about half of that to go into your food processor. Now, I'm not real fancy about this. Just throw it in. I mean, there are ideal ways, but let's face it, most of the time we are distracted. So we want to just get it in while it's still cold and get it done. All right, so we are going to turn it on. And it's going to get a little violent in here. Start to get smoother and smoother and smoother. All right. Now I am going to show you what this looks like. It is extremely fine. Okay. I'm going to come around and show you. I don't know if you can see, but when I say it's about the texture of cornmeal, I mean it is really fine. This part of the fat is actually going to help make the dough tender. The bigger chunks of fat are going to make the dough flaky. So we put our lid back on, and we are going to add the rest of the butter. And I'm actually going to put this in, and we're going to pulse it. I wish you could see it. I've actually worn off the pulse button on my food processor. I've owned this for about 10 years, but it still works, so I'm not replacing it until it absolutely dies. It's kind of ghetto looking though. That's okay. I don't mind. All right, so we're gonna pulse it, and we want it to have big, large, coarse crumbs because that's what makes the dough flaky. So after about 10 pulses, I check it. Now, some of my chunks are still, you know, 1 inch in size, which I forgot to tell you is about the size you should be cutting the original chunks. So we're gonna pulse it about 10 more times. And I want to show you what I mean when I say you should be having coarse crumbs for your second batch. So I'm going to come around again, and I want to show you this. Do you see the size of the crumbs? Do you see this? That's a chunk of butter. You see this? That is a chunk of butter. They're about the size of small peas. That is the perfect size to get flakes in your pie dough. All right, and now we are going to mix up our liquids as soon as I find my bowl. You know, it's just one of those days. So to our bowl, we are going to add 2 eggs. You can use chia gel, but keep in mind it'll be a little crunchy in your teeth after it's baked because you still have the chia seed in there. You could use flax gel, that's fine, or you could use eggs. This is going to act as both a binder and as a browning agent, okay? And you are going to add to the 2 eggs, you're going to add a 1/4 cup of water, which is about 59 milliliters or about 2 fluid ounces. Okay. And you want to get this really, really well mixed. See if I have my favorite whisk. I love this whisk. I bought it at the Goodwill, so don't ask me where to get it because I have no idea. But you just kind of slam it down. If you have a normal whisk, you can do it in a circle. But you really want to whisk it. This is going to help to change the structure of the proteins. It's going to incorporate the water and the egg. It's going to give you a better result all the way around. Now, once your egg mixture and your water are totally combined, I'm coming around again, guys. Can you see? Probably can't, but they are kind of like scrambled eggs, okay? You are going to use the top section of your food processor. There's a little hole in there, and it's going to dribble the liquid in. You don't want to add it too fast, or it will change this negatively. So hopefully I don't spill all of this. You're going to turn it on. You're going to pour it in. And then as soon as it starts to come together like a shaggy pie dough, you're going to stop. Because you don't want this to heat up. You don't want to melt the butter. We ready? Don't overfill it or you're going to spill it. My mom is here for my birthday, and I am as happy as a clam.
So Naomi,
Yeah, Mom.
I was looking on as I was coming in to check on the soup, and I was wondering if you didn't have a hole in the top of your little plunger thing, you just dribble it in slowly.
Just dribble it in slowly, yeah. But if you've got a food processor, you've got a hole. If you, and a mess, apparently. Okay, You might find that the liquid all pools in the center and all of the flour goes to the outside. Just use your scraper, push it all back in, turn it back on. Turn it off, check it again. This is one of those times when you just kind of want to give an eyeball. Okay, so first of all, I know I've lost a little liquid because it's laying all over my counter. Second of all, that is going to bother me. So I'm going to get a rag and I'm going to wipe it up, and then we're going to check this again, add a little more liquid if I need it. That's probably a good tablespoon of liquid, and it will affect what the texture of the pie dough is. So I don't want to assume, I want to check, because pie dough is one of the things, if it's too wet, it'll work easily, but it'll be tough. If it's too dry, it'll crumble. You do not want that. All right. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. There's even more liquid over here. It's just not my day. What can I say? Okay, so one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my dough. And actually, to be honest with you, that is really handleable. So I am not going to add any more liquid to this. But I am going to wipe off all the drips. All right. Mom, you don't have to feel like you have to stay out there. You can come on in. My friends don't mind. Now, my mom makes the best pie in the world. And my pie filling that I'll be putting this on today is her apple pie. It is famous where I grew up. It is famous here. It is just delicious.
Can you find the recipe on your website?
You sure can. I've got, I think it's listed under Mom's pie, Mom's apple pie. Because, you know, my mom made it.
There you go.
Okay. Just wiping. All right. What a minute. Now we're going to roll out the pie dough. If you notice, I'm not chilling it. You know why I'm not chilling it? Because it will get crumbly. This pie crust, because we added the extra sugar, it is like way sweeter than you would normally expect. It is a dessert pie crust. And I think that this is probably going to make enough for a double pie, just looking on site. You notice it's shaggy, right? So, sorry, my sons came home. So me going shush is me just saying, please don't get the dog barking. It's a real house. I'm a real mom. And I am cooking in real time. My kids are coming home from school. So if you notice, I'm just sprinkling a little bit of flour.
Let me get this in a bowl.
Well, yeah, Mom. You know, originally, I gotta level with you, I thought I was making for a single crust pie. Even though my recipe, as I wrote it, says a double crust pie, I had a crisis of belief. And I thought, there's no way. But, apparently, I was right. It's a double crust pie. I didn't need to question myself. Now, if you notice, I just have barely enough flour on our rolling pin. Just spread it out, almost like you're putting flour in a cake tin. You don't want a lot of flour because then you have a dry, pasty crust. And I'm going to separate this. Now, for the top crust, I use about 2/3 of my dough. And for the bottom crust, I use about 1/3. I have a rolling pin. Nice try. I have a rolling mat that actually tells me how big I'm rolling things out. But you want it to be about 1 inch or 2 larger on the bottom than the actual pie plate. And then on the top, you want it to extend way over. Now this particular pie dough is a little bit sticky. Okay, that really helps it to get nice and flaky. So you're gonna find with this particular pie dough that you kind of, until it's about 6 to 8 inches, you kind of flour the surface, lift the surface, turn the surface repeatedly. Okay, that's okay. It's gonna make one of the best pie crusts you have ever had. And it rolls out. I tell people, like, if you've made pie crust for years and years and years, don't be nervous. Let your fingers be your guide. It should feel like pie crust. If you haven't made pie crust, hopefully I'm going to show you exactly what it should look like. Mom, can I have you take this?
Sure.
You are the greatest. All right. I can remember my mom making pie when I was little.
It's a family favorite.
I can remember you doing this too. Oh, well. See? Just putting a little flour on when it got a little sticky. Pushing it back
years
together.
ago when your great grandmother would make pies, and
Yeah.
and your aunt and your grandmother and great aunts.
If it gets a little sticky, don't panic. Put a little more flour down. That's why I check it every so often. You don't want to roll your whole pie crust completely out and then find out it's stuck, because then you're going to have to roll it all the way out, scrape it up. It's going to be tough. You're not going to like me. You're going to say it's all my fault. We want to roll it out about 1/8 of an inch thick. You don't want it to stick, so be generous on the bottom if you need to be. Something you need to know. Gluten-free pastry does not stretch unless you add something like expandex to it. A, I'm lazy. B, I'm cheap. C, I'm not buying expandex. So this recipe does not call for expandex. This recipe calls for a rolling mat or a Ziploc bag or some plastic wrap. Roll it on a rolling surface so that you can flip it into the pie pan. If you do that, when you serve the baked pie, people will not know that it is gluten-free, and they will praise you to the heavens. If you don't, you'll be tearing it, ripping it, poking it back together. It won't be the same. Okay, we ready? I lay it out. I lift it off. Think I got a little hole? If you get a little hole, you know what? You patch it in. Life is about making good on your mistakes, right? So we push things together. We forgive ourselves. We forgive our pie. Everybody gets forgiven. I pull a little bit off the edge. Just poke it in. No one's ever going to know. Okay, and then if you'll notice, sometimes it drapes, sometimes it tears. Just is what it is. But you do want to kind of make sure that your edge is poking over so you can seal it so the inside filling steams. Okay? Please ask Kaden to not be online right now because it is keeping my bandwidth really tight. Okay? Now we're going to roll out, well, now we're going to put the pie filling in. If I can find it. And, okay. So for deep dish pie, to be honest with you, I use anywhere between 8 and 9 apples. It's about 16 cups, 8 minimum to 16 cups of apples. About a couple tablespoons of better batter flour, about a tablespoon of butter, half a cup of sugar, and about a teaspoon of cinnamon. Not a whole lot to it. That's why people like it.
Actually, it's a half teaspoon of cinnamon. The reason why I'm telling you
I
that.
did say a half teaspoon.
Oh, you did great.
Maybe I didn't.
The reason why I love this recipe is because it doesn't have too much cinnamon in it. I think that's where people go a little bit overboard and then kind of tastes like everybody else's. That's what kind of makes it a little different. Light on the cinnamon, but you can
And no nutmeg and none of the other cloves or anything else anyone does, right?
No.
So,
Less is more. Less is more.
now we're going to roll out the second half of the dough. Once again, same thing. This is a high-fat dough, so it's going to start off a little sticky. We are just going to... We are going to make it like it's winter. After all, you know, it's holiday baking season. If you grew up in Florida like me, it doesn't snow anywhere but in your kitchen. So, make it snow. All right, you know what? We're going to move this. get this off screen. You don't really have to worry about rolling it and letting it rest and it getting tough because it doesn't have gluten. It can't get tough. The only way it can get tough is if you add too much water. Now we want to roll this out way bigger than the actual pie plate. So if you have a deep dish 9-inch pie plate, you probably want to roll it out to about 13 inches. That gives you enough space to put it up over top of the actual filling and to have an edge to overhang, to cut and crimp. You want it to be about 1/8 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch thick, depending on how much crust you like. There's people I know who love crust, and there's people, that's me. I would just eat the crust, forget the filling. Give me all your crust, you eat my filling. There's other people who could take it or leave it. My husband prefers it paper thin. He doesn't really want the crust as much as he wants to eat directly out of the center of the pie. That is just the truth. Okay, so we once again flop it over. Lift it off, and then we just kind of push on the edges to seal the edges, and we're going to take a knife and we are going to cut and crimp it.
Looks nice.
Thank you, Mom. My mom is like the best pie maker. She's so good. I will say my son is an incredible. I cherish the secret dream that he's going to someday open a pie shop because he's such a good pie maker. And we're going to name it Po Pies. And I'm going to eat them all. And then you'll have to roll me out the door. But that's okay, I won't care. So you cut off the edges, okay? And then you just kind of take your fingers. And I don't get fancy with it. You could do all kinds of things with the scraps, like roll little leaves and apples and, you know, be all fancy and Pinteresty. I am not Pinteresty, okay? I am just an everyday mom. And I have teenage boys, and they're not going to care what it looks like. They're just going to eat it. So, truth of the matter is, this is just going in the way it is. And that's okay. And I'm okay with that. Now, if you notice, especially if you notice, that your pie crust looks a little bit floury, which it probably will, then this next trick is going to be something that you definitely... Hold on a second. That you definitely want to use, which is something my mom taught me, which is great. We are going to brush the surface of this pie at the beginning and then again close to the end with a little bit of either milk or non-dairy milk. At the end when I do it, I'm going to sprinkle some sugar on it and it's going to make it have like a crunchy, almost like an elephant ear top. But when I do it at the beginning, it's just to get all the flour off. Okay, so you're going to see me wash my hands because I have texture issues. And then I will come back and I will show you what I do to brush it, and into the oven it goes. Just realized that I use my draining mat to wash my hands. So that was good. All right. So we are going to take, I use non-dairy milk because we're allergic to milk, but you can use any kind of milk you want. You want something with a little bit of fat, and you want something with a little bit of carbohydrate. So 1% milk, coconut milk, rice milk, yeah, I guess you could in a pinch. Soy milk, I guess. Almond milk if you wanted to. Any of the commercially available ones will definitely do okay for you. And for this particular set, at the very beginning, I don't put it on the outside crust if I can avoid it. The second time, I'm definitely going to. Now, you're not going to get to see me put the second coat on and put the sugar on, because I won't be on at that time. But you'll just have to believe me that it's delicious and absolutely necessary. If you are looking to reduce your calories, you can make this with just a top crust, and you can also use my favorite new ingredient, which is monk fruit, granulated monk fruit. It's a sugar alternative, which I don't like sugar alternatives generally. I think they're gross and they feel weird. But the monk fruit looks like sugar, tastes like sugar, acts like sugar. I love it! So if you are looking to reduce carbohydrates, you should definitely do that. The last thing we are going to do before we pop it into the oven is we are going to vent it. You want to give it enough vents in the pie, A, to make it look pretty, B, so that you don't get the soggy bottom, soggy topped pie. So I just cut a couple vents. Once again, you can do them pretty. You can make them into smiley faces. You can put, actually, in our family at holidays, everybody gets their own pie. Mostly because I don't want to share germs and I don't want to be angry when my piece of pie gets eaten. So we put everybody's initials in their pie, and that's their pie. They can eat it whenever they want, and I have mine, and don't touch mine. And occasionally that actually works. All right, but we're just gonna put some slits in. We're gonna pop this in the oven. Now, I personally do almost all my pies at 375 for about an hour, about 55 minutes. But there are other ways to do pie. You can use this crust with any dessert pie you want. Follow their instructions. I don't care. I have no investment in that. Anyway, I hope you liked the recipe. If you liked my recipe, you can always feel free to subscribe to our channel because we'll be posting new content every week. And I hope you will like it and share it because that helps me to know that you want to learn. If you have requests for recipes, please put them in the comments section. I will take them into account. I can't promise I'll make everything, but I can promise I will pick something. Have a great day. I hope to see you soon. And remember, when you buy Better Batter, you help me to be able to make these tutorials. Bye. Ooh, that is hot.